The building really represents some of the best days of my life. I know that it was my church, but it was more than that. It was the place where I met so many of my friends. The first place I ever sang in front of anybody was my church. I look back on it and all of my upbringing was within those walls. But at the same time, some of the hardest days of my life were spent there too. It's where we had the funeral for my grandmother. I just think about how things in this world change 24/7. Sometimes it's hard to feel like you've got a place to stand. That place represents home to me. I know that on my best days it's there for me, and on my very worst it's there for me too. So my church actually just celebrated 100 years. That day was so special because they asked me to lead worship, and it is crazy. We planned to release the building, and then I found out that literally like 7 days before the song was coming out was the 100-year anniversary of my home church. I was able to sing the building. It was one of the most emotional moments of my entire life. Singing that song in my church, looking at all my friends and family, knowing how much this place has played a role in all of our lives. My great-grandfather was the one who was pastoring when that building was built. He was the very first person to ever stand on that stage and preach a sermon. The really cool thing is my uncle actually gave his life to ministry, and they invited him to come back and preach the sermon for the 100 years. I got to sit down with some of the other folks that belonged to that church, and I asked them what the building meant to them, and it was so cool to hear everybody's different responses. I mean, some people said this is the place where I was married, you know, this is the place where me and my husband got married, or this is the only church I've ever known. This is the only church I've ever belonged to. But my Aunt Mary Ann's response was my favorite. She looked at me and she said, "They're all my favorite." When people hear this song, I hope it takes them to some place really special, because it always takes me back to the most special place in my life. Whether that is the home that somebody was raised in, whether that is somebody's grandma's house, or their school, or their church, whatever it is, I hope it takes them to that special place in their life.
It's where I learned that Jesus